you. I'm so excited to be here, and I'm so happy that I got a chance to hear some of you read before I read. Um, and I'm just going to read a piece, actually not from the Beyonce anthology, because it's so complicated. Beyonce is a big subject, and I've got a short amount of time. So I'm going to read a piece that I wrote that really talks about how I became a writer and the things that shaped me. My parents were from Panama, and when I was a baby, we moved to England, northern England to be specific, which is why my Spanish accent is totally and completely jacked. No more questions, no follow-up questions. Then when I was in elementary school, we moved to Brooklyn. It was a very good time to be a black girl reading books. There was Nikki Giovanni and Alice Walker and Toni Morrison, Maya Angelou and Rita Dove. I didn't see myself exactly in their work, but I reveled in the castles of words they created. The girls and women in their novels and poems looked a lot like the girls and women in my life, and yet there was always a little distance between me and the works that I read. I never read any books about Black Latinas, and so with all of these works, it was like that funny feeling you get when you're walking down a busy avenue and you catch a glimpse of yourself in a department store window. You know it's you through the glass, behind the mannequin, but it's not such a mesmerizing image of yourself that you might fall in, like Narcissus staring into a lake. Then I got to college, and I read Jamaica Kincaid's short story, Girl. Even before I dove into that lake of that perfect short prose piece, I was taken by her name. What kind of name was Jamaica Kincaid? And could I please have a name like that? Could I snap my fingers and suddenly be Nevis O'Donnell, or Dominica Fitzgerald, or Grenada Donovan? If Elaine Potter Richardson, born in St. John, Antigua, on May 25th, 1949, could become Jamaica Kincaid, then what might I become? Her name alone showed me that maybe I could be braver than I had once been. Maybe I could be bolder, more flirtatious, more outrageous, and maybe that sort of person could find the nerve to call herself a writer. The story Girl is full of the kinds of instruction that I grew up on. Wash the white clothes on Monday and put them on the stone. Wash the colored clothes on Tuesday. Don't walk barehead in the hot sun. My mother, new to America, seemed baffled that I didn't come out of the womb knowing the way to cook rice and peas or how to fry plantain. How could I not know how to sew a skirt from scratch? And what did I mean that I couldn't grab and thread a needle and fix my own dangling hems? How was it that the daughter of as fine a woman as my mother did not know how to sit in a skirt or how to get out of a car in a skirt without flashing my underwear and behaving, to quote the girl in Kincaid's story, like the slut that I was so intent on becoming? It was a surprise to see that right around the same time that I came to this country with my mother, who expected me to understand the ways of the old country and to have those ways embroidered on my head and heart, Jamaica Kincaid had published Girl in The New Yorker. On June 26, 1978, when that issue of The New Yorker came out, I'm fairly certain that I was walking down Nostrand Avenue in Brooklyn with my mother. My mother was buying coconut and wondering out loud why I didn't like to drink coconut water and what that said about my character. She was standing next to a bamboo forest of sugarcane, sniffing the stalks, wondering how I had the audacity to ask for a quarter to eat stale candy that came in a plastic wrapper when there was sugarcane, delicious sugarcane that I could sit on and suck all day long. I can say that with a fair amount of certainty that sometime in June 1978, my mother asked me to pick the best mango from the pile, and I picked one that she found inferior. It was not that I was handed one by the shopkeeper that was inferior, but that I, a child who she said had more luck than sense, picked the worst mango willingly. I can still hear my mother on the telephone, calling my aunts and friends and family, shaking her head with disappointment as she recounted the tale. I did not discover Girl until I was in college in the 90s, but when I saw the date it was published, when I knew that I was the girl that she was talking about when she wrote, I almost felt as if she might have been walking behind me and merely transcribed the whole conversation between my mother and me, or that she had written the piece for me to let me know that I had been seen and understood. This is, of course, what great writers do. They make you feel as if they are spies, as if they have somehow crept into your room at night and stolen your dreams or your nightmares. The instructions go on in Girl about how to smile at someone that you like, how to smile at someone that you don't like, how to bully a man, and what to do if a man bullies you. At the very end, the girl dares to ask one question in the middle of her mother's soliloquy. She asks, "But what if the baker won't let me feel the bread?" And you can feel the surprise and frustration in her mother's voice when she answers, "You mean to say that after all of this, you're really going to be the kind of woman that the baker won't let touch the bread?" I learned from reading Jamaican Kincaid that simple words could be torpedoes, that while I wanted to write with the narrative bravado of a Toni Morrison, it might be okay if I started with something less ambitious than a book like Beloved. I started writing memoir before there was a genre called memoir. I wrote for whoever would publish me stories about the people who I had known and the place where I had grown up. I sat in my little Brooklyn apartment and I tried to listen for the voice of my mother, listen for the sing-song voices of my grandmothers, both passed away. Jamaica Kincaid taught me that the women I loved may not have been known to many people in the world, but that they were opera singers, that they had beauty in their voices and dramas at the crux of their lives. And if I could catch their voices, the way they loved, the way they taught, the way they turned their face away in pain, and how they stood in their own power, that their words on the page might become a song worth singing. Jamaica Kincaid taught me that to be a girl from a small Caribbean country did not mean that I had no place, which is how I often felt. The me that I saw in her stories and books was so beautiful and so familiar that if the books had been lakes, I would most certainly have fallen in and never been able to find the will to spire my way to the surface. As I tried to become a writer, when the rejections were stacked high and the bills were stacked higher, I thought often of Jamaica Kincaid. I knew somehow, from the moment I read her, that I would spend my life writing, regardless whether or not anyone paid me to do it. In no small way, I think that Jamaica Kincaid gave me my plan A, my plan B, and my plan C. I wanted to live in New York and be a published writer. I wanted to walk into the library on Fifth Avenue with the lion sitting outside and be able to look up my name in the card catalog. I wanted those walls to have just one book with my name on it. But I was also entirely willing to move to some warm place where I could smell the sea, to a little clapboard cottage where I could make rice and peas. I imagined that wherever this island home was, it would be a place where I could buy mangoes in an open market, and the baker never thought twice about letting me touch the bread. If it had come to it, I imagined I would change my name to Nevis or Dominica. I would take lovers and drink sweet rum out of wide barrel bottle green glasses. I would write short stories in homage to Girl for the rest of my days, and I would be happy. That's not how my story turned out. But when the days were dark and New York was cold, it was a dream that sustained me. For the dream, for the path, for an awe-inspiring sense of completeness, and for a cable jump boost of confidence and possibility when I needed it most, I remain eternally grateful to Miss Jamaica Kincaid. Please welcome our second group of readers from the class of 2019.